I've been wanting to delve into the specifics of how I trade a little bit ever since I started this channel, but I realized that it's kind of irresponsible of me to teach any of the patterns that I trade or the way that I trade when I'm not profitable. It's kind of like the blind leading the blind, right? I have, however, had a lot of time in front of the screen. I have 6 years of practice. I have showed up most days out of those 6 years. So I do have some experience and nuggets of truth about how to not lose money. So that has left me thinking about the things that I have been able to improve over time and experience that I can share with you. Something that stands out as crucially important to making incremental improvements to your trading ability is creating rules for yourself. So I'm going to do a multi-part series that will explain the evolution of how I came to the rules that I use today and where I started at the beginning with them, with enough information that it won't leave you wondering at the why. So here's a thought. Becoming profitable could be as simple as learning how to control your losses better, even if you only have a half-decent plan. Being brilliant isn't a prerequisite to being a profitable trader. My rules are not in order of importance. Every one of my rules keeps me from making bad decisions and taking risks that I shouldn't be taking. Over time, they have changed a bit. I've tweaked them, added, and even taken away rules. Through experience, time, and effort, I have adapted. And that is crucial in this environment because the market is constantly adapting. And if you can't keep up, you won't be able to be successful. It's so important that we don't get stuck in our ways saying, "This is how I've always done it," as a reason to keep doing it. The evolution of our rules must happen for all traders. We all start out with general, non-specific concepts that gurus kind of spout off here and there, and we're supposed to take those and use them as our rules. Don't chase, cut losses quickly, buy dips. In actuality, the guru is only giving you the root of the rule. Rules take work and experience to create for yourself. I started out with the same root rules years ago, but only over time and hundreds of days looking at the market have I really determined what those rules mean for me. And that brings me to the point. Every rule that we make has to be catered to us individually. That means that nobody can just make you a list of rules and expect you to follow them. Every rule needs to be catered to our emotional difficulties and our personality type. No guru can give you a list of rules that will cover every way you'll need to control your mind. But they can give you an idea of things that you should consider. If you're greedy, you need rules to curb that greed. If you have FOMO constantly, you need rules that will weed that out of your habits. If you trade with too much risk because you're impatient to get to the finish line, well, you're gonna need rules for that too. Regardless of whatever it is you need, it should all be crafted to you. So with all that being said, I'm going to share with you what I've come to settle on. My journey is completely different from yours, but there will always be some threads of truth that we can pick up from other people's experience. My first rule is establish, write down, and respect risk for each trade. That equals best levels only for exit and entry, proper size for risk, big Momo means smaller size for wiggle room. There's a lot to unpack there. Establishing your risk means taking the time to see where your play becomes valid, and that has to happen first. Then you can look for where you would enter so that your risk is acceptable. If you look for your entry first, like I did for many, many years, there will be lots of times when you won't follow through to determining your risk, and you may just enter out of FOMO. That leads to your being caught in something that you can't afford, and it will make it a painful and unnecessary loss. So many times I entered at the wrong place and just watched it do exactly what I wanted it to do once I was stopped out. And that's simply because I couldn't afford the risk for my terrible entry. Another part of this rule is always write it down. I used to let my emotions guide where I would get in and get out. I didn't really pay very close attention to anything on the daily chart, which is where you should really be looking for your best levels. Writing it down means that I have something reminding me of what my plan is. If I've learned anything in my trading career, it's that we're very short-sighted and forgetful creatures, especially when emotion is involved. The term best levels got added because I was really good at constantly convincing myself of of a new level. This was all because I had FOMO. So many times I would watch it go to my original desired level and take off from there. But because I was in at a terrible level, I had too much risk on, so I couldn't hold through that move. Proper size is something I have always struggled with trading. Each trade should not be the same size. For example, the arbitrary 100 shares. A stock at $1 and a stock at $100 have completely different price movements and amounts that you can expect to gain. Therefore, you should treat them completely different. I've found that positions should be similar in size. For example, a $100 position, especially if you have a small account. Your risk should also be similar. So say $3 a trade. That's what I'm using right now. This keeps your trades even so that no trade has more weight than another and has the potential to undo what you've managed to do correctly with other trades. So essentially, if you manage your trades correctly, you'll be able to become profitable just from shifting from having randomized risk. Randomized risk also makes it somewhat impossible to tell what you're doing correctly. The bigger losses don't necessarily mean that you're worse at that sort of play, but because it's a bigger loss, it's hard to recognize where you're better at something than another. Rule number 2. No hesitating to cut, and don't rethink your plan. This one is actually the reason I use a bracketed order now. I use it for taking profit and cutting my losses. I used to use a mental stop. A lot of people talk about how they do this, but I have come to realize that I can't be relied on when I'm emotional. And taking the time to put in a stop loss and a take profit at the levels that I planned from the beginning helps me keep to my plan. Inevitably, if I had a mental loss, I would keep putting in orders and taking them out and putting them in again as the price action materialized. If you're trying to put in a level to take profit or get out at the last second when you see something on the level 2, oftentimes you're going to miss out on the number that you want. The reason for this is anybody with a stop loss or take profit at that level that had already been sitting there is going to be ahead of you in the queue. By the time it gets to you, who just put it in a second ago, they may not have anybody interested in buying your shares. Using the tactic of the bracketed order has helped me improve my losses, meaning they've been reduced significantly. And this has really helped me follow through with my original plan. I don't end up moving my orders nearly as often as I used to. Sometimes I will move it if I see that the price action is not quite allowing me to get my order, so I'll adjust it just a tad. But trading with bracket orders gives me peace of mind, and it allows me to step away from my computer without having a panic attack that I won't take profit or it'll move against me. And I think that any tactic that helps you relieve stress is good. Rule number 3, no following anyone. And that includes the hot stock. No FOMO is what this comes down to. This one has definitely morphed over time. Originally, I started in a couple chat rooms and I liked following the thing that everybody else was trading sometimes. Sometimes I would even find myself jumping into a trade that a guru just happened to mention, and in the end, they turned out poorly. The guru would come back saying that they had sold the shares and the stock would dump on me. It's just that gambling mentality. Just because a guru likes it doesn't mean it's a good play for you. That delay in information from that guru is going to mean that you're not going to be able to execute the same way that they do, ever. It's impossible. You would have to be in their mind and be able to execute at the exact moment that they do to get the same results. Over time, I added the term no following the hot stock. The one going parabolic is always exciting, and it's very, very, very tempting to want to jump into it. You just want a piece. But more often than not, the risk to reward just isn't there. The hope for it to go higher and higher is, but you have to be realistic. If it's skyrocketing up, it's going to have to come down, and probably at the same rate. The hot stock is always dangerous because you're emotional, you're excited, there's FOMO all over the place, and you get a little bit greedy too. You see it as this golden ticket to get to success. Protecting your money is top priority, and if you feel like you can't trust yourself around a hot stock, then don't tempt fate. Back away. Kind of like if you're in a relationship. You don't spend all your time with somebody else you're attracted to. Well, think of it this way. You're in a relationship with your profits, so do your best to keep them. Rule number 4, and the final one I'll touch on today. No averaging down. This is one that hasn't changed the entire time I have had it on my list. It is so crucial that we do not add to our losers. The idea of being able to turn a losing position into a profitable one is very enticing. Most traders find themselves doing this at one point or another in their career. But what they'll find is that even if they make it work 1 out of 10 times, it won't undo the 9 out of 10 that totally went against them more and made them bust through their max loss on the day. It's better to get out at your stop loss and get in again at a different level that you think validates your plan than hold through and hope that it'll turn around for you. Seeing yourself go in the red deeper and deeper and deeper can have you freezing up for sure. But if we need to keep our emotions out of our trading, this is one sure way to get yourself emotional.